Okay. Before I start, I'm Mark. Basically, I'm involved with DePIN on different levels, like academia, but also practical. So I'm trying to show you a little bit from that space. My quick question is, who knows what DePIN is? Who knows? And who would say that they are an expert in DePIN? They already know everything and kind of. Okay, so I mean, I designed this talk under this expectation, so it will be like, I see it as an intro to DePIN, so like I will try to show you what it's about, and for those who maybe have one or two opinions, there will be some nuggets on which we can later discuss or something like that. So that's the idea. So let's start. Are you DePIN? So what is DePIN? So it's one of these verticals in blockchain, which is, I would say, emerging and quite thriving also. So there are like over 500 systems already building in this space. So it's like kind of already a small industry within blockchain where people doing stuff. So, and basically the core idea is that you build decentralized physical infrastructure networks, DePIN. So the most famous example, which also like kind of started the narrative in this space, is like Helium. You might have heard of Helium. So what they did, they incentivized people to place physical assets, physical devices, so-called LoRaWAN gateways, and they built this network of devices. So you see they covered quite some part of Europe and the US, and basically each dot is a physical device. So basically they gave people, or they still do it, they give people tokens and they maintain these devices. Yeah, so in this they kind of build a network. The core concepts which DePINs are using are basically from cryptoeconomics, so as you heard, token incentives, but also decentralized governance is like part of it, and also other properties of the blockchain, like the immutable data storage and some other aspects. So it's like kind of, and I mean, it's having real world impact. As you see, Helium also went to in a cooperation with T-Mobile in the US. So kind of some of these networks, they really go out and they manifest a presence out there. And so still, in the end, what is a DePIN? So let me briefly walk you through how we see this a little bit. So here's an example from Onokoi. So basically Onokoi has this solution for global navigation satellite systems. So global navigation satellite systems like GPS, yeah, which you have in your phone, like to know your positioning. Basically, they have a problem because there are atmospheric delays up there. So basically when you get the signal, there's some error in the signal, so your positioning is only accurate up to some meters. And if you want to go to sub-centimeter accuracy, which you require for some applications out there, it's not good enough. And there's an established technology which you can use. It basically requires you to place an antenna, for example on the roof of your house, which knows exactly where it is. It gets the same signal, can calculate a correction term, and share it with nearby devices. So it's like kind of established, this technology exists. And now what Onokoi is doing, they incentivize people, basically with tokens, to place every 20 kilometers such a station on the Earth to kind of provide this coverage and this service basically. So like this is kind of the first take, and I think probably the most famous take in DePIN, it's like about these physical assets. Yeah, so it's like DeFi is like kind of a lot of virtual space, and here blockchain kind of comes out and penetrates, so to say, like the physical world. So physical assets placed, so DePINs are kind of concerned with this aspect. So it's the first take on what a DePIN is. A second take is that actually DePINs, they are these three-sided platforms. Yeah, so like kind of makes them also complex in the sense you have these infrastructure providers, so those who kind of place these antennas. Yeah, then you have sometimes a community, sometimes a company, like a DAO could also be sitting there, who kind of takes this infrastructure and kind of creates a product out of it. And then you have a demand side. Yeah, and when you design a DePIN system, you need to take care of all of these three aspects. So one concrete example, for example, what we're doing in YHI, it's like the same idea with Onokoi, just for weather data now. Yeah, so basically you incentivize people to place these weather stations, you collect weather data. So kind of these are, usually like hobbyists, hardware enthusiasts, yeah, so kind of a very particular community. And then on the service side, you kind of have experts, people working at meteorological organizations and universities who can use this data to actually nowadays like use AI to do forecasts, yeah, so kind of an expert community. And then you need to package this into a product for the customers who want to have intelligence services, yeah. And you already see it's kind of quite different requirements you need for each of them to satisfy like this. So it makes it interdependent. So, and this is a second take on DePIN. So usually you have these three-sided platforms. Yeah, so that's like what deeply characterizes DePINs. And also in the beginning, I mean, still gives a lot of challenges to satisfy all the demands. And the third, of course, we wouldn't be here. Kind of DePINs, they use tokens as a coordination tool. Yeah, so like it wouldn't be a DePIN if it doesn't have a token. And so why do you use these tokens? So one is like, I mean, obviously, maybe obvious for some, like to kind of reduce capital investment cost. Yeah, so like for Onocoin, we calculated you would need to have $80 million. If you give it to me, I could build this infrastructure out, yeah, covering the whole world. The problem is you can't really make a sustainable business model out of that. Yes, too many upfront costs, not enough demand at the moment. So kind of what we do, you can kind of crowdsource, crowd-finance the investment in such a network through tokens. The second, which is actually much more interesting, is like it can lead to self-regulation, like kind of an optimization. You can set incentives to the token so that your network learns. So for example, what happens in Unocoin, someone wants to join, they buy an antenna, they place it in the garden under the tree, and they're happy, they're waiting for their rewards, and then they get literally no rewards. And then they come to Discord and they ask, oh, I bought a device, I don't get any tokens, why? And then someone from the community jumps in and said, where is it placed? You should put it on your roof, you know, more coverage of the sky, you get better rewards. So a person does it, and then still bad rewards. And then the community gives support again and asks, is the antenna still? Does it move? Have you touched the cable? What type of cable are you using? We, as a DAO or something like this, we don't need to micromanage and tell everyone how to do it. Kind of a continuous learning through token incentives, which makes it quite lean. There are different models, single token models up to multi-token models. The most famous token model in DePIN is like this burn and mint token model. Some of you might have heard of it. I will show you how it can look like. So you have like kind of two tokens, here in the example Ono and data credits. And the Ono token is like kind of what you expect a blockchain token to be. Yeah, value appreciating, transferable, all of these aspects. And you have a data credits token. And the data credits token is basically more seen like, as I said in the name, a credit. So it's non-transferable. You can have it. You can spend it on system service, but you cannot transfer it to somewhere else. And through this, we can actually make the data credit to be a stable coin within our ecosystem without it being a stable coin. Yeah, because it's non-transferable, no third-party market can form, it's just within our ecosystem, but we kind of can bind the price to dollar, for example. And as you see in this three-sided market, on the demand side, usually you have very traditional players, like conservative industry like this, and they don't know much about tokens, and with the data credit, it's very easily explainable. It's like just a credit on AWS or something like that. And yes, and the Ono is kind of packed, that are kind of bound to it. You need the Ono to get this data credit, and this token is rewarded to the reference station owners, gives access to governance, and in this way, you have a burn and mint token model because the Ono token actually gets burned in order for the data credit to emerge. It's a very quick intro, I know, but I don't want to overload also, so I will stop here. We have a very technical paper on it. If you're interested in some end-term state of the economic model, then you can read it or ask me and I will tell you more about it. But otherwise, that's this third take on a DePIN. So what is a DePIN? Basically, it places physical assets. Yeah, it is a three-sided platform, and basically the placement of these physical assets are incentivized with tokens. And basically this led us to the creation of this design guideline, not design guideline, I'm sorry, a classification tree in collaboration with Andrew, who is I will later have a slide on him, like featuring his project. Basically he needed such a classification tree and we developed it together. Basically you see these three core questions on the top. Is it a three-sided platform? are there token incentives and are there physical assets? If you kind of fulfill this, you are a DePIN. If not, you might be a project who kind of offers a service kind of to DePIN projects, because like it's also like a little bit narrative, we wanted to include those, like kind of we call them DePIN support systems, and then you can also, of course, not be a DePIN. And to give you an example, for example, in this DePIN space, something I have not told you about, there's like still like one important differentiation which you can do. So there's kind of the physical assets which you place, are they fungible? In the sense of, is it important that this device is placed here, or could it be simply replaced with another device somewhere else in the network? So for example, for weather, when you have a weather station, having it placed in my garden gives different readings than having it placed in your garden, or on the roof, or below a tree. So kind of each data point is kind of unique, and you cannot just say, oh, this one is dead, I take another point. So kind of it's non-fungible in this sense. So like this fungibility is important, and in Unocore and Yhi, for example, which we have seen, it's these basically location-dependent DePINs. You can also have location-independent ones. So for example, when you think about Filecoin, decentralized storage, I mean, for redundancy purposes, there might be some was a little bit important where they're placed, but in general, you have storage here, and you can just replace it with the storage somewhere else. It doesn't matter too much if it's in your house or in my house. It's like kind of the idea behind. On the other extreme, we have like examples which are not DePIN. So for example, Uniswap, it doesn't place physical assets, so it's not a DePIN. You have like, for example, Uber. You could say it's a three-sided platform. Yeah, they have like they have a supply, they have a demand, and they have kind of a centralized company, kind of, which makes a service, but they don't use token incentives. Yeah, so they are also not a DePIN. You can have participatory sensing communities or citizen science, which kind of links it to research, which also builds such infrastructure networks, you could say, but they usually don't use token incentives. And we also have a paper on basically that actually DePIN is token incentivized participatory sensing. So kind of adding to participatory sensing these token aspects, and then you have projects kind of who are particular built for this DePIN ecosystem, in which we're also including like IoTex and Peak. Yeah, so that's the input. I mean, there are some challenges. I want to give you some notion in the space, like kind of some info. So, I mean, there's this huge promise of providing real-world utility, which also got me excited. So kind of, I think these applications are very easily to be explained to my father or my mom. Like, you get a better weather forecast, you kind of have more accurate GPS for your rover in the garden or something like this. So kind of, I think it's a really cool story to tell for policymakers, for layman people, why crypto makes sense. It kind of brings these values of co-ownership, coordination, cooperation, kind of into the real world, and kind of it's very promising, I think. But there's of course also problems. So like very often, I would say these DePINs, like all over crypto, again, they just focus on the supply, not really having the demand in their mind. And you see all of these sensor networks, for example, who collect a lot of data. And the problem is here that in the end, data really has no value, like in most cases. So no one is really willing to pay for it. And I think it could result in this disillusionment. So now there's some excitement, people come in, they think they're joining a cool project, and in the end it will be just yet another failed rug pull project. So I think we need to be a little bit careful here. So I think what to watch out for is like in this data domain, for example, for projects who go into existing markets, but with curated high quality data, exactly knowing that this data is actually needed because there's a market. Or otherwise, maybe if it's more explorative, which we do with Yhi, so it's no guarantee, but I think in the end, you need to put the data into usage, so kind of doing some intelligence service on top. How many? 3, yeah, perfect, I'm done. That's very good. Okay, so that's basically here. So if I now got you excited, like it's cool, like DePIN is the thing, you want to learn more, I don't know. There's like one cool initiative currently forming at the Trust Square. Like it's called Public Infrastructure Networks Community. So like it's not a DePIN community, but for you it's a DePIN community. And basically we are trying to bring different stakeholders together, like kind of existing industry players, like mobile phone carrier companies, like energy grid providers, like these different stakeholders, and connects them with adoption partners, like startups, like DePIN startups, have this academic touch in it, and also the broader ecosystem of blockchain and in the real world, like kind of brings them together to work on concrete use cases. Yeah, so to kind of give startups maybe a channel to have a customer, corporates to learn, academia to study some nice topics, all with the goal not to burn the technology. Because usually what you notice is like there's a hype, all the people jump in, everyone tries everything, and after half a year the technology is dead and no one is touching it again. And we're kind of trying to build like kind of a sustainable thing around it, with the medium-term goal of an unconference in Q3. So stay tuned. If you want to join, let me know. I'm very curious. And last slide, before the end, this is my collaborator on this work. He's Andrew. He has a very cool website which is called wholovesburrito.com. You need to check it out to know why it's called like that. But actually, he's a very intrinsic motivated person, open source project, and he basically crowdsourced all the DePIN projects which are out there. And I would say in a neutral form, he has classified them and is really unbiased. So he has no, I mean, I don't know, like, but it's my view on it. And I think he's also very happy to share this data. So if you're a researcher or something like this, I think you could always collaborate with him. Having this said, this was it. So thank you very much. And yeah.
Thank you very much. We can get only one question.
Thank you very much for this nice presentation. I have a question a bit more general regarding DePIN applications, and if it's too technical or just too broad, I'm happy to take it in later. I'm very curious on your position of looking at DePIN compared to the problem of having an economy of scale that a normal server-side farm would have, compared to, for example, the cost of equipment that individual peoples will need to carry for the same amount of computational power.
Not fully, like, what's the question? Like,
excuse me.
Yeah.
So, if you look at DePIN and the cost of the infrastructure that is required for individual people to carry,
yes,
compare that to the economy of scale of a centralized location.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, good question. I would actually argue, like in this setup, that actually DePIN setup, like if you take also the community approach on the platform side, like kind of the service side, like building it, actually reduces costs, because like usually when you build these cross country networks, like you have different regulation in different places. I mean, sometimes it's difficult to maintain them in particular areas and like this. So going this community route, so to say, kind of reduces these operational costs. You kind of outsource it also to the community. And I think what DePIN tries to do is like kind of create these synergies with the economics of scale on the service side. So very often at the moment you have more or less centralized parties there sitting, usually corporates, like kind of trying pushing it with, of course, goals to decentralize. I would still argue a DAO setup could also make sense on this end, but I think DePIN is actually very pragmatic in this sense, and they're probably seeing what you're seeing. So they are kind of decentralizing very often on the infrastructure side, but then on the service side, they are more centralized and kind of trying to, be more efficient and these things. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mark, for your talk and presentation.